Welcome to Fun and Games Side Quests. Every episode is a different host sharing a video game they love and why they love it.
What's going on, everybody? My name's Kevin, aka Kalo. I am the host of the Level Up on YouTube. Shout out Kalo on Air on YouTube. And I am part owner of the video game news website Game Sandwich. Shout out to Matt real quick. Thank you for having me on. And I get to talk about one of my favorite video games of all time that really isn't talked about enough, and that's Pokémon XD Gale of Darkness. Now, where could I really begin with this game? It released back in 2005, and it was a successor to the GameCube title Pokémon Colosseum, which does take place within the Ori region. Now, growing up in the early 2000s, you pretty much had your run-of-the-mill 2D Pokémon games, and that was a big jump for me, especially when compared to 2D games. Seeing Pokemon on a main console like the GameCube and not in handheld mode, it was pretty mind-blowing. And this was developed by Genius Sonority, which I do think is why it's very different when compared to Pokemon mainline games. The main goal of this game is to rescue 83 Shadow Pokémon in total from the evil Cypher organization. And you do this by using your snag machine, which I can kind of liken that to having an Iron Man arm on you at all times. Now, talking about gameplay, this game focuses heavily on 3D double battles, and again, you can't forget the absolutely insane mechanic, at least at the time, of stealing other people's Pokemon. Now, here's the catch though, I guess, pun intended, but the main thing here is every Pokemon you catch from another trainer, they're gonna be Shadow Pokemon. Now, once you capture those Shadow Pokemon, you gotta use them in battle to build a bond between you and your partner. Then you can take them to this special monolith in the middle of the forest to purify them. And what I do think is pretty cool here is, especially when compared to other mainline games, you start off with an Eevee, which kind of opens the door to all the evolutions, at least at that point in time, like Flareon, Jolteon, Vaporeon, Umbreon, and Espeon. And whenever I did get my hands on this title at some point in time in my youth, I really resonated with it simply because it was a deviation from the very happy-go-lucky mainline games and kind of took itself very seriously. Now, what exactly do I mean by that? Well, this game kind of takes the whole crime syndicate thing and cranks it up to 10 with the Cypher organization. And this is where the Cypher organization is taking their second crack at world domination, and they did this by creating Shadow Lugia. And talk about an introduction to Shadow Lugia. The game pretty much starts off with this cinematic of the SS Libra, and Shadow Lugia is presented as this major threat. It shows Shadow Lugia going over the ship and picking it up with a certain type of Psybeam ray. And as a kid, seeing these 3D visuals, it was mind-blowing. And quick little shout out to Pokemon Colosseum real quick, because this game, or this series, does a good job connecting the two games. In that game, you defeat what you believe is the leader of Team Cypher, which is Evice. But it turns out at the end of that game, I guess, spoiler warning, but Greevil, the main character, the main villain of this game, that turns out to be the real leader. Now, the things I truly love about Pokémon XD Gale of Darkness is the presentation of the battles. Every single battle feels important. Every battle feels cinematic. The musical scores that introduce certain trainers, like shout out to the real ones who know Mirror B. I mean, come on, that's timeless. And speaking of battling, if you do run into a Shadow Pokemon you do want to capture, that is your only time you could capture them. You can't come back and retry your luck. So basically, if you one-hit KO one of your favorite Pokemon, like a Shadow Snorlax, he's gone forever. Also, as a kid who just logged countless hours into mainline Pokemon games, I was looking for a challenge, and this game's difficulty spike is there, and it will humble you. I also like how this game specifically forced you to get a certain set of Pokemon like Teddiursa, Ladybug, Pokemon like that I normally wouldn't use in mainline playthroughs. This is where I started to really lock in on certain typings and type advantages, and that's something I never thought about before as a kid. I just brute forced my way through Pokemon games most of the time. But Pokémon XD Gale of Darkness really forced me to think about things and how I approached battles, especially when dealing with those Shadow Pokemon. But yeah, this game is truly one of a kind. I'm very glad it's back in the limelight, especially on NSO now, so I'm definitely going to have to replay that soon. But I just have fond memories of this game being damn near impossible to beat back in the day. Whenever I reached the point to face off against Shadow Lugia and capture him successfully, that was a real achievement back in the day. And honestly, Pokemon games haven't replicated that feeling, at least for me, for a long time. So yeah, I do hope you guys check out Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. Hopefully we can continue this conversation, mainly because I love this game. But as of right now, I've been Kevin. I gave you the lowdown on all things gaming, and happy gaming.
Hello there! My name is Leo, and I'm here to tell you all about my Dune podcast, Gom Jabbar, the perfect podcast for new fans of Dune and longtime fans of Dune alike. My co-host Abu and I dive deep in both spoiler-free and spoiler-heavy episodes covering Frank Herbert's original novels, the film adaptations, the board games, the comics, the upcoming video games, the HBO TV series, anything we can get our hands on. We even have a companion book club series to make your first or your 15th read-through even better. So, if you recently saw Denis Villeneuve's adaptation of Dune, or if you read Dune back when it came out in 1965, this is the podcast for you. You can find Gom Jabbar on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, pretty much anywhere you find your podcasts, and we hope you join us on the Golden Path.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.